So the first thing to know is that the symbols for the catchment and the inflow have been changed. Now these are user controlled, you can actually set these up yourself. I'll show you where these are. We'll go to the General tab, open Data folder and click on Common. This gives us basically a shortcut to our Data folder, our Common folder. And in there we have a block called Catchment, which is being applied for catchments, and if I type I, you'll see that we have the block that's being used for the inflow. So these can be changed, you can revise these, and these are controlled via the Pipes tab, Active Network Settings, and to control the display of the inflow icon, we can find that on the Design Settings tab in here, and to display the catchment block or the catchment marker block, we can control that here. So again, that can be changed. You'll also note the inclusion of some additional Pip blocks. These Pip blocks have been installed on your computer. They haven't actually been applied with the installation, but back in the Common 10 folder you'll see that there is an updated settings files folder. In there is a folder called Pipes 18.2, and in this installation we have provided you with a whole heap of brand new pits, which you can see the previews for over here. So you may want these as part of your install. All you need to do is to copy paste these directly back to your Common folder or Common 10 location, which is where all your other pits are located. As you can see, mine are actually already in there, so you can copy paste these across. To actually apply these, you can go to the Active Network Settings, go to the Drainage tab, Pit Tables, and from there, if your pit families and pit types have already been custom set up or you've set these up yourselves, then the idea would be that you would go through between every single individual pit or pit type and apply the new pit block that you would like assigned. Now, if you don't want to have to go through that process, there is an automated process which will resolve that for you, which will basically overwrite your current pit and pit types with a brand new selection, which is the selection that you can see in here. Now to do that, you can go again back to the Common folder. We're going to go back to the folder which is the updated settings files, Pipes 18.2, and you'll see there's a Dr. Pit Families Capacity.dat file. Now that file is basically your pit table. Now to apply that to this individual drawing, you can copy paste it directly to the ADV Roads 10 folder. If you want to apply it for all jobs going forward, you can copy paste it back into Common 10, and that'll overwrite your existing pit table. So if you don't want to overwrite it, I don't suggest you to undertake that process. The next part of this is really just to review how things are beginning to look on plan. If you've used the software for a long time, you may be used to seeing sort of these circles with the text and the text over the pipes. First things first, this is now called legacy labels, so we can actually turn these off, and to do that we can go to the Active Network Settings, go to the Display tab, and in there we can turn off or tell it to ignore legacy label plotting. Let's see what happens when I click OK. So that gets rid of all those sort of nasty circles and nasty bits of text. To have solid pipes or dashed pipes or pipes with width, we can turn this on by going to the Active Settings, going back to the Display tab and clicking on Use Polyline Specifications. What this means is that for every class of pipe that you have in your pipe tables, be it class 2, class 3, for each class you can set up a style for those particular pipes. The actual styles are controlled underneath Active Network Settings in the Active Network Settings pull down, and we can click on Pipe Draw Settings. If we want to set this up for all jobs going forward from this point onwards, we would click on Global, which means that any new job that is created would have these settings applied. For this particular project and this project only, we're going to click on Pipe Draw Settings. In the form we can choose which pipe class we would like to edit, so we can have a different style for each pipe class. In this case we'll just leave it at class 2. If we want to have a fixed width pipe display for the entirety of our network, we can do that by clicking on Fixed Width Pipe Display and setting a value in meters. So we might like to have 0.375 for all of our pipes. In this instance we'll just leave that unticked. We can then control whether or not we have line work shown for the center, which is actually what we've got displayed at the moment. The inside diameter of our pipe, which you'll notice is unticked, hence why we have no line work. And we have outside diameter line work actually ticked on, which is why we've got this thin line going along the edge. For each different category, we can set up a layer with a prefix, a network name if we want. We can then add again a blank in there and a suffix to basically set up customized layers. We can then decide whether or not that center line is dashed, or pick any other available line type that's available within the drawing, the line type scale, and the color. The final part of the form enables us to determine the width of the actual individual line. So in this case, I can say I want the width to be measured from the middle. I'd then like that line to be the full width of the pipe. I can then specify a nominal value if I wanted to specify the width of this line, or I can say a percentage, whether or not I'd like the line to be 100% of the width, or maybe, I don't know, 50% of the width. We can do this for each section. We can turn items on and off. Once we've done it, this gets saved to our data folder at the moment because this is purely for the project. If we wanted to, we could use the export tool here, which would enable us to export this particular style and setup, and then within the global settings or within another project which has already been started, we can use the import button and import that file. To apply the settings, all we do is click on OK. Now we've set up our pits and pipes on the drawing, we're now in a position to start labeling. Before we do that, however, we need to have ensured that we've undertaken a couple of steps. So the first one would be a branch sequence. If we click on branch sequence, click our network, click on OK, and in this form we just make sure that the network has been sequenced to ensure basically that the numbering is set up correctly. The final part is to ensure that the network label numbering has also been set up. To do this, we go to the network labeling settings button. We click on our network, click on OK, and in here we can determine how our network is set up. I'm going to leave it as default and show you how we can change it afterwards and have our network labels update. If you do want to change the setup for the network labeling, you can actually go to the network panel, click on the pull down, and you'll see that edit network labeling styles is available. And this will allow you to go in and set up individual styles similar to the ones that are already available for you within the software. So to begin labeling, we're going to go up to the Plan Production panel and click on Network Labels. In there, we first of all need to provide a description for this group of labels, which I'm going to call Network Labels. We then determine the type of network which will be labelled, which in this case will be drainage, and then we can pick a number of styles depending on where we are positioned on the network. So for the pipes, you may find that you've got additional or different looking pit labels. Now these may include the text 2.5mm. What we've done is on the latest version we have added some additional styles which hopefully will be a little bit clearer for you to understand. In this case I'm going to pick pipe label with the diameter above and the grade below. For the actual structure itself, I'm actually going to pick one called Pit Label ID with circle. So this is basically the pit number with a circle block around it. I'm going to click on Add Update Labels. And you can see that labeling has now been applied to the drawing. If I wanted to make changes to any one of these particular labels because they weren't quite what I was after, I can come back into the pit style labels, click on the style I'm after, click on Edit Style, and we'd always recommend, rather than starting from scratch, copy a style which is closely resembling something that you're after and edit it that way. So you can go in and actually change some of the content. So if I didn't want the diameter to be displayed with the millimeters and the diameter symbol afterwards, I can go in and change that. If I wanted to have additional text on the same line, I can add it this way. It's much easier to work on a copy of an existing style than start from scratch, so definitely make use of the copy button. The same goes for the pit label. If I click on the pull down, pick the style I want and click on Edit Style, I can come in and actually begin to edit this. The difference with this one is that we're actually using a block which is found in the common folder to define the circle and hatching you can see in the drawing. And you can see there from the pull down I'm able to go in and pick any block that I wish for that particular marker. Again, we'd recommend that you take a copy of the pit marker drawing that's being used and edit that one rather than start from scratch. So you can see I've got my labels set up. I am actually able to grip edit the circle and reposition these where I need. All the text is grip editable and can be repositioned where you want it. The actual text numbering itself is still not quite how I would like it, so I'm actually going to go in and show you how we can make changes and then ask the software to update the labels. To do this, I'm going to go up to the Network Labeling Settings button, pick my network, click on OK, and then pick a style. So in this case I'm just going to pick line number / pit alpha. I'm going to leave the rest as it is, click OK. Nothing changes on screen. We need to make sure we hit the Synchronize Labels button. As you can see, that's now updated my label. So any changes to pipe diameters and grades, when I strike Synchronize, that will automatically update the labels for me. Finally, we're going to review how we can change the arrow size for the pipe direction and the offset and arrow size for the pipe bypass. Both of these can be turned off using layer control. They're both on individual layers, so if you don't want them displayed, you can turn them off there. You'll notice that my pipe direction arrow and my bypass and offset are actually considerably smaller than the current default, and we'll show you how you can do that. You go to the Active Network Settings, and in there we can go to the General tab, Display tab, and down the bottom right hand corner we can change the pipe direction arrows. We can change the length and the width by setting the values in here. So I'm just going to set that value to 2 and the width to 1. You can see those arrows are considerably bigger than they were before. To change the bypass, I can go to Active Settings, click on the Drainage tab, and in there where the bypass is controlled, we can also control the arrow size and the offset. So I might like to change the arrow to 2 and the offset to 2, which again will increase these. Lastly, it's very important that we don't make changes to every single project in this manner. It would be better off if we set up our global settings. If we go up to the Active Network Settings pull down and click on Global Network Settings, this is the default that is applied to every single project. So make sure that you go in and change the values set out in here. You'll notice mine are now different, to make sure that these settings are applied to every single project. You can also save this particular setup as a file. You can have a number of different files by clicking on Save As, and you'll see that we've got a few in there at the moment, but if you save that, you can save it as a completely separate file which can be loaded in and then shared between users.